Welcome to Key Conversations, where you get to connect with the best of the music business, unlocking the secrets to exploding your music career, presented by In the Key of Success. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. The conversations you're about to hear are between our special guest and participants of my MX4 course, the Marketing and Branding, Money-Making, Mentorship Mastermind for Musicians. They are singers, songwriters, composers, producers, and artists just like you, asking their burning questions of our experts while transforming their careers over 6 weeks. If you think this could be you, check out mx4course.com to schedule a free half-hour coaching call with me to see if we'd be a good fit. So, let's get started. Welcome back to the Key Conversations podcast. I am here with Ari Herstand, who has always been someone that I admired, not just because of his amazing blog, Ari's Take, but as a musician and a collaborator, a co-writer, and you're also a very good friend, Ari. You really are. So I'm truly, truly excited to have him here. We've got a lot of really awesome stuff across the music business to talk about. And on the call today, interviewing Ari will be Caitlin, April, Scott, and I've got a few questions from Julian, who's also a part of this current MX4 course, who couldn't be on the call. So we've got some amazing questions. So I'm just going to dig in right now. Ari, thanks for being here.
Yeah, right on. It's cool to be here.
So I just want to start off, I want to ask you, when you look back on your whole entire massive music career and all the different things you've done, what are like the three things that pop out as like the turning points or the highlights that got you to where you are today?
Oh man, right off the bat, three things. Okay. Let's see. Well, I started my music career in Minneapolis, and I would say that kind of building up a really strong thing in the local scene in Minneapolis was really what kind of kicked off my music career and made me realize that I could be successful as an independent artist. So I guess maybe just kind of the whole package of just like building up a local Minneapolis music scene there, that was something that, it wasn't a moment, I guess, but it was something that when I kind of look back, it was like, oh, the Minneapolis music community and like what I kind of built locally was really important and very formative for me. Let's see, another one, probably my first big sync placement, which was on One Tree Hill in 2000, I want to say 10 or 11, something like that. And that was something that I secured by myself by tweeting the music supervisor for One Tree Hill, my song. And that was really huge. That brought in a lot of sales on iTunes and a lot of new fans. When I would tour, people would come up to me at the show saying that they discovered me from that show. So that was a big one. And then maybe another one, probably opening for Ben Folds. That was probably one of the best shows that I look back on as something that, was a lot of fun and really kind of gave me a glimpse into that world. It was in front of 3,200 people. And I'd gotten the opening slot because I had heard that his opener couldn't play one of the shows on the tour. So I emailed the manager and I had to research who the manager was. It was like a whole process, but I eventually got to the manager. I'm like, hey, I hear Ben Lee has to cancel this show. I know you've gotten 1 million submissions already, but just want to hit you directly. Here's my music. Would love to open it. I'm free that day, whatever. And she got back to me. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so that was pretty cool. That was my biggest crowd that I played in front of, and that was great. I still have people come up to me at shows now saying that they discovered me from that show. So yeah.
Awesome. I know all of this or not necessarily all of it, but your book that's coming out or will be out by the time this podcast is launched. Tell us about that and what sort of was the impetus to get that in everything in writing.
Yeah. So I'd say about 4 years ago when I, just before I launched Ari's Take, I was touring most of the year and I was playing a lot of colleges, a lot of high schools, And I got known kind of in the Minneapolis music scene, but then when I moved out to LA, kind of the LA singer-songwriter music scene, as the guy who kind of knew music business, and so as the musician who knew music business. So whenever any of my musician friends had any questions about it, they'd ask me. And then because I was playing so many universities and high schools, I'd just get a bunch of questions from musicians, like Facebook messages asking me just various things about how to operate a music career. And I try to respond to everybody. And it got to a point where I didn't have time to respond to everybody. But I was getting the same kinds of questions over and over again, like, how do you book a tour? Is this a good deal for a club show? How do I hire freelance musicians? How do I get songs placed on TV? That kind of stuff. And so I just kind of, my brother is a web developer and my best friend is a graphic design artist. So we kind of built Ari's Take together, and I just put up all these articles and was like, all right, here's everything that I know of all the questions that I've been asked a lot, and I don't have time to respond to you directly, but go read this article, go read that article. And then that's, honestly, why I put the site up initially was just to kind of put out the information that I was getting asked so much and just have it somewhere where people could access, for musicians who wanted to learn could access. Because I'm not one, I don't believe in competition at all in the music industry. I don't think there's enough room and money and fans to go around for everybody. And also, I didn't believe in like holding on to secrets. Like if you know it, you should share the knowledge. And I was just happy for, people to learn and everything. So, Ari's Take, I launched, just over 4 years ago, and that kind of spread around. But I realized that it didn't, it's a very limiting medium, the blog format. So I could just get out like very short ideas in a single blog post, and people who have read all the articles, the blogs that I've written on Ari's Take, still come to me and ask me questions and say, hey, like, I've read every article. I've written like 200. I've read all your articles, all your blog posts, but I still have questions, and I'm struggling with how to piece it all together, and I don't really know what to do moving forward. So I felt like I really wanted something that was more comprehensive, a manual that could really step everyone through and in more of a guide, because the blogs are nice and you can get spatterings of information here and there. But like, whereas an Ari's Take article, maybe one page, I touch on that idea for like 30 pages in the book or something like that. So I really wanted to put out something more comprehensive and a manual that people could just get, they could read, and they could go through, and it really would guide them through and step them through everything that they need to know to operate a successful independent music career.
Awesome. That's super awesome. Cool. Thank you. It's fun to hear the background, and there aren't a lot of musicians. This is one of the reasons why Ari and I feel like connect, is because we're musicians that are out there doing it, but also like get a lot of questions and want to give back. Cause I had people for me that were answering my questions when I was getting started, and I still have mentors and coaches and people that I go to. So I wanted to, there's definitely like a pay it forward sort of thing when you got in a groove and you kind of figured out some things that, other people are struggling with. So that's awesome. And I super respect that. So I want to start opening this up to you guys. Caitlin, let's start with you, songwriter and singer and writer and extraordinary, awesome chickapoo. So go ahead with what's your first question for Ari?
Hello. Hi, Ari. Thank you just for being here. The first one that I have is, what has been the hardest part in terms of the DIY musician journey, and how did you tackle that?
Yeah, great question. I would say it's a never-ending battle, struggle, or just journey, I guess, of learning how to, prioritize and manage my time. There are a million different things I could be doing at any one moment, and it's learning not to, paralyze myself in the sense of just like, there's so much, I'm just going to watch Netflix, And so I think with that, like I've learned to kind of tackle, one project at a time and set goals, and then say, okay, I'm going to work on this today, and I'm going to just tackle this one very specific thing. Like, I'm going to design the header for my new Facebook page. Like, that is what I'm working on right now. That's what I need to do. you know, and not like jump around to Facebook messages or scroll through Instagram or you know, emails or that kind of stuff. It's like, I'm working on this. Or it's like, okay, today I'm writing a song today. And so I'm going to basically shut down everything else and I'm going to sit and focus on writing. And, you know, that's a lot easier when I schedule like co-writing sessions, because then I go and I'm there and it's like, all right, we're just writing right now. Or when I'm like booking shows or booking a tour, so it's like I dig in. It's like, all right, today I need, you know, the goal is I want to at least get, you know, holds or something on 5 shows for this tour, or like I really want to lock that in. So I think above all, it's, you know, just realizing, and it's ever changing, because there's not, I think that the biggest difficulty for DIY musicians who don't have managers is really knowing where to focus your efforts every day and figuring out what are the most important things to focus on at any given moment, and then realizing when to move on from that and when you want to move on to that next step. So, you know, I'm constantly, because I'm an artist, you know, it's all exploring this myself, and I reevaluate that constantly. But I've figured out, and I think, you know, not just from my own experiences, but from also like talking to a bunch of other indie artists and managers even, and seeing kind of how other people are doing it, I kind of have realized how to focus that, or at least lay it out in a way that is kind of a guide for me to use, but then other artists to use as well. That it's not necessarily you need to do like specifically, okay, today you need to do Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then email 10 people or something like that. It's more of just like, once you lay out your goals and once you realize what you want to focus on, because every artist is different. And I mean, that's the beauty of the new music business, is that every, you know, there's 100 different ways to make a career now in the new music business. Whereas like 10 years ago, there was like 3 ways to do it. So whatever like interests you the most and inspires you the most, that's where you want to be focusing your efforts. So I can't tell you necessarily like every day you should spend 20 minutes Instagramming or whatever like that, because maybe Instagram doesn't inspire you and you don't really care about building an Instagram presence, and maybe you just want to, you know, be a songwriter. And so that's definitely not smart to be spending your time doing that. So I think it varies for everybody else. And I know, you know, I realize what works best for me, but that's constantly evolving and changing every day.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Ari. And for everyone who's listening, aristake.com is Ari's blog that he was talking about earlier. And his book that we're talking about, brand spanking new music industry book that's getting all sorts of amazing reviews, is at ariherstand.com. So go check that out. Let's go to Scott. Scott's a singer-songwriter and violin player with a new baby, which is kind of fun. So Scott, what's your question for Ari?
Yeah, I want to make an album. I got 79 people. I have 81 actually added to on my mailing list, and I want to crowdfund it because I don't have money. When do I pull the trigger on that? Getting a crowdfunded album?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So have you started exploring the various crowdfunding platforms yet?
I've looked. I have a list of all of them. Pledge Music, Indiegogo, Kickstarter. You know, I have a lot of them on my radar.
Cool.
And
well, I would say before, absolutely. So it's great that you started an email list. I can tell you that the most important resource and tool that I use still, and with everything else out there, email is by far the most valuable for me, and it still is, even with Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, everything. Email remains to be the constant that gets the best open rate, click-through rate, and conversions for when I want to sell something, like, or get people to sign up, you know, for a crowdfunding campaign. I would say, you know, you can launch a crowdfunding campaign. Someone's got a baby there.
I'm muting him.
So what I would say is you can, you know, You don't want to launch a crowdfunding campaign before you have anybody who is willing to support you. But that being said, you don't need 1,000 fans to launch a crowdfunding campaign, because honestly, the majority of the people that are going to back anyone's crowdfunding campaign, when you have less than, I would say, probably 5,000 fans or people on your mailing list, are going to be those that you know. And so that's the biggest thing, is just like when you launch a crowdfunding campaign, it's definitely, you don't want to position the campaign to try to appeal to people who don't know who you are, because that's a fool's errand. That never works that way. And believe me, like, I've run 2 crowdfunding campaigns. I've worked with a bunch of artists who do this. And that's the biggest misconception, is it's like, well, you know, I want to try to tap into the general Kickstarter community or the general pledge music community, and people are going to find me and realize how amazing I am and give me $5,000. So that's not how it works. So even just with 81 people on your email list, those are your first supporters, or your biggest supporters. And you can launch one now, except just realize that you want to approach, I would actually, because 81's not an unmanageable number, I would email every one of those people individually and say, and, you know, use their name. And if you know who they are or know anything about their family, like, catch up in the first sentence in an authentic manner. But just like, reconnect, basically, make it super, super personal, and you'll probably get every one of those 81 people to back your crowdfunding campaign. And the average that people spend on crowdfunding campaigns is about, I want to say it's like $60 a person or something. It fluctuates between like 50 and 70 a person is the average. So that's a good chunk of change. Now, that being said, you know, I would also not just email those 81 people individually, email every friend you can think of, every family member, because this is the next phase of your music career. Like, this is the next big step for you. So if you're taking it from just playing local shows and this is going to be your first album, this is basically your entrance as a professional musician. This is what's going to start your entire career. And so I think it's exciting for people to join you on that. So that being said, you still need to make your crowdfunding campaign look really awesome. Make it, you know, I would read all the guides on how to build a great crowdfunding campaign. Your video needs to look super pro. If you're hoping that your album is going to sound professional, is going to be jumpstart you from where you are now to the next tier of your music career, your video needs to represent that. Your campaign needs to represent that. I would encourage you to do a photo shoot with a professional photographer and reskin everything on your website, to all your social accounts, to point people to your crowdfunding campaign with the new professional photos, with the new video. So make sure you get a professional, someone just with a good camera. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this. I mean, you could find someone in town that has a good DSLR camera, pay them $100 and shoot your video. Mind you, you should prepare what you want to say and what your video is going to look like before you do it, but it doesn't have to cost that much. And then, so once you have your crowdfunding campaign that looks amazing and you've tested it with your inner circle, everyone's like, all right, looks great, ready to go. Make sure that the amount you're setting to raise, the minimum amount, is not only attainable. So with 81 people who are on your email list, don't set your goal at $20,000. That's too big for where you're at right now. But $5,000 is very attainable. Now, you have to really think about when you're, you know, what you're promising people. And I made this mistake myself on my last Kickstarter campaign. I made a huge mistake, and I promised people vinyl, and I didn't actually budget out how much a double vinyl LP was going to cost. And I didn't realize that it had to be double, because you can only fit 22 minutes of music per side of a record. And I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And so I budgeted out how much each vinyl record is going to cost. I'm like, oh, okay, that's manageable. But then when my whole record was complete, my record came in at 57 minutes. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't fit on one vinyl record. I need a double LP. And that doubled my cost, which made it cost prohibitive for me to send it out. I had to delay my entire timeline by 1.5 years so I could come up with the $4,500 just to make the vinyl and ship it out. So don't make that mistake. Make sure you budget everything before you launch it. And then before you set your amount. So if you're raising $5,000, you have to think, all right, how much is shipping going to be? How much are shipping expenses going to be? What's it going to cost to create every CD or record or whatever you're going to create? And how much are studio costs going to be? And the thing is like Indiegogo looks attractive in the sense because you get all the money no matter how much you raise. So if you set your goal at 5,000 and you only raise 3,000, if you do a flexible funding option on Indiegogo, you still get that money. So that looks really attractive to anyone who's running a crowdfunding campaign because they're like, well, I still want some money. It would be a travesty if I set my goal at 5,000, I only raised 3,000 and I got zero. Well, yes and no, because if you only raise $3,000, are you going to be able to fulfill the packages with $3,000? Are you going to be able to create your full-length record, print up all the CDs, ship them all out for just $3,000? Or do you absolutely need $5,000 to fulfill and create what you're promising people? So think about that going into it. It's not just about the money, and it's not, I didn't make any profit. Like on my Kickstarter, I raised just over $13,000, and that was only 75% of what it cost me to create the thing. So it was only a portion of what I needed to create my entire project. So the thing is, and that was 5 years ago, was my first Kickstarter campaign, where I realized all those mistakes I was making. But so I would say, you can launch one now, but prepare, go about it properly, photo shoot, video shoots, test out your campaign amongst your inner circle, set a budget, get a spreadsheet together and really set the budget out of how much everything is going to cost. And then once you kick it off and you launch it, it's like, all right, $5,000 or something. You can always raise more. Remember that. Like, what's your bare minimum that you can do? And maybe it's like $5,000, you're going to make a 5-song EP. But if you raise $10,000, then you can make a full-length album or something like that. You can have these stretch goals, is what they call them. Mm-hmm. So you do that, and then once you launch it, that first week, email everyone and Facebook message everyone individually, and those are going to be your biggest supporters.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was you guys, that was gold. That's like the overview of crowdfunding right there. That's some serious gold. And to extrapolate just the two things to me that are the preparing. Like everyone just wants to do it. And that's something that took me like 2.5 albums to figure out that the value in preparing and giving yourself that 2 extra months, even though you really, really want it out by that just because you've been working on for so long, like taking the extra time to prepare and get the photos and the videos and set it up and get the language and have people review it and ask for feedback. And that's a huge process that we like to skim over just because we're so, we're eager, I think, as a breed of career people. So that's one thing. The second thing I really want to just make sure people really hear, this is a relationship based career that we're going into. And the fact you have 81 people on your mailing list, I've heard a lot of people like, do I need to wait till I have 10,000 people on my mailing list? Like it's possible that you have the fans that are going to, like, I've done 2 crowdfunding and they've both raised over $20,000. And I did not have tons and tons of people the first time I had like 1,000 people on my mailing list. And it's because of the people that I meet live at live shows and I stay in touch with, and I do a lot of individual emails, and I'm constantly reaching out on Facebook and stuff. And there are some lifelong fans now that are my super fans, right? And that is, you don't get super fans that are, especially when you're starting out, that are going to be distant and not be in touch. You're going to know who they are soon, but you're not going to know until you reach out to them. So I love that, emailing every single person on your mailing list. That's I think that's really huge. So thanks, Ari. That was like amazing answer there. All right, that was not a bad way to kick off season 2 of the Key Conversations here. We are going to continue talking to Ari next week. We're going to talk about fan funding and streaming services and other insights that Ari has around creating an awesome career. So you don't want to miss this. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week. Please don't forget to rate and comment on iTunes and Stitcher Radio if you like this podcast. It's the best way to keep it going, get more subscribers, and continue to share this awesome information with the indie music community. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. All of the music on this podcast was provided by yours truly. The theme song is called Inevitably, and it was written with Cameron Ernst and produced by Joey Auk. If you're interested to find out more about my own composing and songwriting projects, go to cbemusic.com. If you're a musician looking to really get some results that you're psyched about in your music career, then head to inthekeyofsuccess.com, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their easy point-and-click editor. All the features you could possibly imagine for a professional website are built in. So, because you are a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special 3-month free trial just for you. Go to www.inthekeyofsuccess.com/resources and click on the Bandzoogle logo to access your free extended trial.